The line at the small-town grocery store was unusually long that afternoon. The summer sun poured through the glass doors, casting golden streaks on the floor tiles. Near the checkout counter stood a young man in an expensive polo shirt and designer jeans, his wrist glimmering with a silver Rolex that looked out of place in the humble store. His name was Ethan Ward, the only son of billionaire businessman Charles Ward, whose name graced half the buildings in town. Ethan was used to being the center of attention, not because he earned it, but because of who his father was. The townspeople smiled politely when he passed, the way one humors someone powerful. But today, standing behind a mother buying milk with loose change, he felt the familiar irritation of being delayed by the common folk. When it was finally his turn, he tossed his energy drink, gum, and protein bar onto the counter with a loud sigh. The cashier, a young woman in her early 20s, smiled warmly. Her name tag read, Grace. Her eyes, calm, steady, almost too gentle, met his as she said softly, "Good afternoon, sir. How's your day going?" Ethan smirked. "Better before I had to wait 10 minutes behind charity cases," he said, loud enough for the mother with the milk to hear. Grace's smile faltered for a second, but she didn't respond. She scanned his items quietly and told him the total. Ethan pulled out a sleek black card and waved it. "Bet you don't see many of these around here," he said arrogantly. The customers behind him shifted uncomfortably. Grace just nodded and said, "Every card works the same, sir." "Credit or debit?" "Debit," he muttered, rolling his eyes. But the card machine beeped. "Declined." Ethan's smugness evaporated. He laughed awkwardly. "That's weird. Try again." Beep. Declined again. The silence stretched. Someone coughed behind him. Grace spoke gently, "Maybe it's the network, sir. Happens sometimes." Ethan's cheeks turned red. "No, it doesn't happen with this card. I'm Ethan Ward. My dad owns half this town." Grace just nodded and said softly, "Would you like to pay cash instead?" He snapped, "Do I look like I carry cash?" The store manager, an older man named Tom, walked over. "Everything okay here?" Ethan was fuming. "Yeah, everything's fine, except your cashier's machine is broken." Tom glanced at Grace, who shook her head slightly. Tom said carefully, "Our systems are working fine, sir." Ethan glared at them both. "You know what? Forget it. Keep your stupid drinks." He turned to leave but stopped when Grace said quietly, "You forgot your wallet, sir." She held out a slim, black wallet that had fallen from his pocket. For a brief second, their hands touched when he grabbed it, and something in her eyes caught his attention. They weren't just kind, they were knowing. Something about her face felt strangely familiar. But he couldn't place it. He just muttered, "Thanks," and walked out, his pride stinging harder than his embarrassment. 2 weeks later, Ethan stood outside his father's company headquarters, Ward Enterprises, waiting for a board meeting to end. His father had been furious at him lately for doing nothing meaningful with his life. To appease him, Ethan had agreed to join an internship program, a charity initiative his father funded to help underprivileged youth learn about business. Inside the meeting room, the executives were already seated. But to Ethan's surprise, at the head of the table wasn't his father. It was a young woman, with the same calm eyes he remembered from the store. Grace. Ethan froze. She was wearing a sleek navy suit, her hair tied neatly, confidence radiating from her every movement. Charles Ward walked in just then and smiled broadly. "Ah, Ethan, you've met our new project partner, I hope. This is Grace Parker, the CEO of Parker Foundation, one of the largest youth empowerment organizations in the country. She's the reason our internship program even exists." Ethan's jaw nearly dropped. "Wait, you're the cashier." Grace smiled, a faint glimmer of amusement in her eyes. "I was helping out at one of our local partner stores that day. We run them to provide job opportunities to young women from difficult backgrounds. I like to work the floor occasionally, reminds me where I started." Ethan blinked, stunned. "You started there?" Grace nodded, her tone calm but firm. "I used to be a cashier for 3 years before I could afford college. Someone gave me a chance, and I decided I'd spend my life doing the same for others." The room went silent. Ethan could feel every pair of eyes on him. Grace didn't humiliate him, she didn't even mention his behavior. But that made it worse. Her grace, her composure, her quiet strength, it hit him harder than any lecture ever could. After the meeting, he found her alone in the hallway. "Miss Parker, I owe you an apology," he said, his voice low. "I was rude, and—" Grace smiled gently. "Ethan, people say things without thinking. What matters is what they do afterward." He swallowed hard. "I'd like to learn. I don't want to be the guy who thinks a job defines someone's worth." Grace nodded. "Then start by listening. Spend time with the people you think you understand. You'll be surprised how much they can teach you." Over the next few months, Ethan changed. He started working directly with the interns, young men and women from small towns, single parents, kids who had lost everything. He learned about struggle, about resilience. And slowly, he began earning Grace's respect, not because of his father's name, but because of his actions. One evening, as the program wrapped up, he found Grace standing by the window, watching the sunset. "You changed a lot of lives," she said quietly. He smiled. "You changed mine first." Grace turned to him, her eyes soft but strong. "No, Ethan. You just finally saw people for who they really are." The next day, Ethan launched a new branch of the Parker Foundation, one focused on teaching empathy in business leadership. His father, once skeptical, proudly funded it. And every time Ethan walked past a cashier, janitor, or store clerk, he made sure to smile, genuinely, remembering the day a woman behind a counter taught him the true meaning of dignity.